I got tired of giving my voice away for free.
I heard that.
And I decided that whoever wants to hear me speak, either you pay me and or bring me out, or I'll be at home. It was the first time that I had a 1.89 GPA. I found out I was being academically dismissed from law school while I was interning on Capitol Hill. What are you willing to do? Do you have the willingness? Are you ready, willing, and available? If you have to learn, you have to be willing. That's the part that people are missing. Somebody asked me one day, what's the secret sauce in getting into Microsoft? I have no idea. What did you do? I applied. Did you have a reference? Nope. What did you do? Me, my laptop, and Jesus.
In today's episode of The Inspired House, we are welcoming back the recruiter cousin herself, Chenae Erkerd, serving as one of the top recruiters in the tech space and a voice for Black people in the tech industry. She's a TEDx speaker, a motivational speaker, an amazing poet, and so much more. Stick around as you're going to learn some of the biggest moves you can make in your career space, how recruiters think, and the real behind-the-scenes look of the job pipeline system. Hey family, welcome to The Inspired House. Wherever you may be watching, wherever you may be listening, I want to be the first to tell you, welcome home. As always, I am your host, Desmond Davis. And family, thank you so much for rocking with us today as we take time, to do a deep dive on what it means to deal and fight burnout while also balancing a career. And I couldn't think of anybody better to talk to than the recruiter cousin herself, Chenae Erkerd. So we're going to bring her on, y'all, in 3, 2, 1. Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. Shout out to you saying my name right, because everybody butchers it.
Well, if you remember last time we practiced and you took the time to teach me, and I have that recording of we're not going to mess this up, communication major. We're not doing that.
And for y'all who know me, y'all see Bane, he decided to come and grace your podcast this time.
Hey, Bane. I like big dogs. I'm definitely a big dog person, but I like big dogs that are low-key kind of lazy, if that makes sense.
Oh, he's very lazy.
See? That's what I'm talking about. I like a dog where it's if I'm watching the game, dog either by my foot or whatever, just chilling.
He's either going to lay on your feet or he's going to sit on your feet, or he expects you to sit on the floor with him and pet him, and he'd be all right.
See, that's what I like to hear. If you ever need dog sitters, let us know, because that's my type of dog. I can do that. I can do that. So how you doing today?
I'm good. I can't complain. Still working, so I'm just taking a break from work. I've learned that when you have a bunch of meetings all day, all the admin stuff happens after hours. So I like to stay on late at night so I can do all the admin stuff that I couldn't do before.
I hear that. So being meetings focused means admin after. And so then when you're doing that and kind of with all the work that you do, doing the admin work, recruiting, being recruiter cousin, being married, being a dog mom, all of that, those are a lot of hats. What has been the most fulfilling hat and what's been the most challenging hat?
The most fulfilling is knowing my limits and knowing when to slow down. So I decided that in 2026, I won't do a lot of traveling. Be a little bit more intentional about when and where I travel to, because I decided that I got tired of giving my voice away for free. And I decided that whoever wants to hear me speak, either you pay me and or bring me out, or I'll be at home. Because I've depleted myself so much in speaking for free that I've learned that I'm also depleting my own worth. I talk to a lot of people about your worth and what to ask for and what you make and all the things, and I have to practice what I preach. So I have really good accountability partners who are better at it than I am, who tell me when to set my limits and my boundaries, but then to also say it's okay to say no this year unless someone really wants to pay you for your work. So I've decided that I don't do all that research for free. I don't gain the expertise for free. So either you want me or you don't. And if you don't, I'm okay, because I'm at home, loved with my family. So it's all good.
I hear that through and through. That I love the mind, the perspective shift of just being really intentional about your yes and your no's, and
Yeah,
those sound like what we like to call a lot in the inspired house informed yeses and informed no's.
yeah.
You know, and so I like that. So you said that's been the most fulfilling with the what is a heavier hat to hold, the recruiter cousin hat or the recruiting hat?
I don't think either one of them is heavy because I don't make it heavy. So the
Tell me
because
more.
I can choose whether to put the heaviness on myself or I can choose whether to give myself grace. So I choose not for it to be heavy because if it's heavy, the recruiting itself is already work. Recruiter cousin is not going to be heavy because I get to make it what I want to make it. And so I try not to pedestal myself because people who know me, and I say this all the time, people who know me, who know Chenae or Nene or Nay, I say this jokingly, but it's also very true. They don't think I'm shit, which is the good thing because it grounds me,
Mhm.
right? But
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
had somebody who I went to law school with, and she had come to an event that I was at, and somebody who knows me as recruiter cousin said, "Oh, I want to introduce you to recruiter cousin." So the person was like, "Who?" And so when she looked over, she was like, "Shanae." And that for me, I was just like, I love that because I invite people who know me as Shanae or Pook, like my mom, or Big Head, or anything. Like I appreciate that because it grounds me, and so I try not to nothing. None of it is challenging. If anything, it's made me be on my toes a little bit more, and it's also made me understand how valuable a brand can be if you make it valuable.
So then, with the people who know you as Nene, Nay, Pook, Big Head, I ain't heard that one the first time. That's a new one. Okay. And those who know you as Recruiter Cousin, you said it speaks to your brand, and your brand can help make you more valuable. Could you explain a little bit more
And
what you mean by
it makes me human, right? It makes me human because when I go to conferences and events, don't get me wrong. What I'm about to say, I'm flattered when it happens. Where when I go to conferences and events, and people go, "Oh my gosh, I've been following you for so long. Oh my gosh, you're like a celebrity." And I always tell people, I'm not a celebrity. I'm just a person who like helping people, who is just literally a regular person who happens to have a whole bunch of a big number on LinkedIn and a growing number on other platforms following behind their name. Other than that, I'm not. I don't put myself as a celebrity because that's not the goal. The goal is just to help the community. Now, if it comes with some type of recognition, community recognition, that's great.
yeah.
So I think for me, it humanizes me versus
Hmm.
putting myself on a pedestal and and putting myself above making mistakes because people also think that when you have a big following or you have a brand or you're good at what you do and everybody knows you, people also think you're on all the time. And I'm not on all the time. So I don't want people to ever feel like, well, dang, I met recruiter cousin and she was rude. I'm not rude. I just don't want to talk right now. So I just think that it makes me human, which also allows me to extend myself some grace.
I love that. So your brand, instead of it making you valuable, it allows you to show people that you're human. And
Plus,
so then,
and
yeah, look,
yep.
I love that. I love that. And then it sets a good tone for people to understand like how, what's the phrase, like how to come at you correct, you know. And
I
so
always tell people, don't correct or don't come at all.
that's a fact. That's a whole
That's
fact.
that
So
Jersey.
then say it again.
That's that Jersey in me.
See, I forgot you are right. You did say you're from Jersey. So then, so the last time we met, you shared your story and just like how powerful that was of just kind of the journey you went on through education, through school, through all of that to how you got here now. And we have new people who are part of the Inspired House community.
Mhm.
By the way, shout out to the Inspired House. You know, welcome home. You already know. But for those who might be new, I just want to give you the floor to share a little bit of your story, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So I started in law school. I wanted to be an attorney. I did not pass North Carolina bar after taking it 3 different times. But what I actually don't what I don't share most of the time about my spill is that I actually, during law school, my financial aid didn't go through. So I was homeless my first year of law school. And so what I was doing was I was going from couch to floor to bed to just different friends' houses because I didn't have my own apartment because my financial aid didn't go through. So I ended up instead of getting a refund check, I actually ended up owing like $1,200. I'll never forget that those $1,200 that I owed. And so and because my financial aid didn't go through, I also didn't have money for books. So one of my college classmates who was moving on to his next venture, he gave me all his first year books for $100, so, which allowed me to have my first year case books. And so I didn't pass the bar. And even going back even further, after that, after my first year, I actually got academically dismissed from law school. Between being homeless, losing an aunt, and my grandmother being diagnosed with breast cancer, lung cancer, and she already had diabetes, I couldn't concentrate on school. And so it was the first time I had ever failed a class. It was the first time that I had a 1.89 GPA. And I looked at my GPA for someone who was an honor student all her life. I looked at my GPA like, this is a joke. I found out I was being academically dismissed from law school while I was interning on Capitol Hill with Congressman Hastings, God rest his soul. So I got an email I might have either been in the Capitol or I was on the Hill in one of the offices when I got that email. And I had to step out of the office because I also didn't have a plan B. I didn't have I want to do something different. And so being academically dismissed from law school, I had to take a year off. And that year off, I worked two jobs. Wrote my first book of poetry. I met my now husband. And then I petitioned to get back into law school. So I graduated from law school before I graduate because I never share this, but I decided to share this time. Before I graduate, I was engaged at the time during my law school tenure or my law school matriculation. My ex fiance we decided to go ahead and break it off. And he left 5 months before our wedding date, which put me into a very deep depression while in law school. And so I had to work through that. And then, so I'm now at graduation. And my mom said to me, she said, Chenae, how did you graduate through all of that? You lost grandmom, you lost Aunt Pat, your engagement ended. How did you get through all of that? And so I said, well, Mom, the Bible says be anxious for nothing. And I just immediately bust out in tears. Like that was the only answer I had. Because I remember being at that time, I remember thinking, God is really all I have. And he's actually really all I need. And so that time period prepared me for, you don't pass the bar, not the first time, not the second time. You don't pass it the third time either. And so I go, okay, now that I have not passed the bar, and being an attorney was the only thing I wanted to be. What do I do from here? And so I went through this journey of trying to figure that out. And so I had different temp jobs and all the things, and I finally get to a place where I had landed at a temp role, which is Duke temporary service, specific to Duke Talent Identification Program, which is where I was introduced to my recruiting mentor, Danita. Danita asked me if I wanted to learn how to be a recruiter, and I said, yeah, because I don't have nothing else to do. At this point, I am now 4 years removed from law school. I have not had a full-time job yet. I have a terminal degree, and no one wants to take a chance on me because I have a terminal degree. So I am automatically overqualified for a lot of things. And so I go and I am now also a temp recruiter making $15 an hour with a law degree. So when people go, oh, I don't want to take a pay cut or I can't afford to do this, there were many things I couldn't afford to do, but I did the shit. So when people go, well, Chenae, I don't want to hear it. Because for me, don't get me wrong, I understand that people don't always have the support I had. That is not me saying that I don't understand that. It's me saying, what are you willing to do? Do you have the willingness? Or what we learned in law school, are you ready, willing, and available? If you have to learn, you have to be willing. That's the part that people are missing. And so learn how to be a recruiter. I then applied for my first full-time role as a recruiter after my recruiting manager broke my resume down and rebuilt it. She then sent me off to my first full time role as a healthcare recruiter, where I was doing everything from entry level all the way up to director. Then I went into pivoted into Microsoft, so big tech. I am now recruiting in corporate, and I am recruiting for software engineers, program and product managers, and cybersecurity professionals. So again, culture shock, because what? Like, I had call center roles, and I used to be a call center technician, but software engineers, program and product managers, and cybersecurity professionals, what? So I had to learn that on the spot, and I just kind of had to learn it as I went. And then Microsoft ended, and so I then pivoted over as a current contractor now with Palo Alto Networks as a go-to-market recruiter. And so I go to market. What? Okay, let's learn it. And so I learn as I go, and I share as I learn as I go. So when people go, man, I've been out of a job for 6 months and I don't know what to do, I'm like, try 4 years. Try 4 years of being a contractor and people telling you no, then we can talk. So I don't want to hear it when people go, well, I'm over it. I was too. Now, what are you going to do now? I get it. What happens now? So that's it.
Wow. Okay. So
I ain't tell you all that last time, did I?
yeah, I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm like rehearsing in my head. I'm like, wait, did she say that? Listen, like I'm low key tempted to like open the door, like get my wife and be like, babe, you remember this? So wow, okay. So then I think my first question is, I'm curious on just your thought process on this. If you didn't go through what you went through your first year, and let's just say your first year was just like sunshine and rainbows, you had the resources you need to get the schooling, didn't have to do like no, for lack of better words, and I say this respectfully, no distractions, right? Do you think you end up passing the bar?
No, because I learned differently. I learned, and so second year, I didn't really have the distractions I had my first and third year.
Mm-hmm.
And even while studying for the bar, I was still very comfortable. I still put myself in comfortable situations where I was able to concentrate. But I don't think I would have passed the bar, just because though I understand the law and I know the law, but there are times where even now I still sometimes get confused on certain things because I process things differently. So I'm a better recruiter than I would have been as an attorney.
That was going to be my guess and my thought of, I'm an avid believer in, I think what's meant for you is meant for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I was curious on just your thoughts on it. It was like, even if everything was perfect and I had like the perfect set, the perfect education, the perfect resources and stuff, I was just curious. I'm like, seeing all of what you do is like, I think no matter what, like you weren't finna pass that bar, because that's just not what you were supposed to do.
And even now, sometimes people be like, "Oh, you should take the bar again," and I always go, "One, you gonna pay for it?
That's
Two,
a fact.
because that was $800 every time I took it. So are you gonna
Yeah.
pay for it? That's number one. Two, are you going to give me the time back that it takes to actually study for the bar? Because it takes, for some people, it's a good 2.5 months is fine. For others, it may take 3 or 4 months. So you're gonna give me that 3 or 4 months back, like literally 8 to 12 hours a day. And so there are times when people will suggest that I take the bar, but I don't want to.
Yeah. That's real interesting for someone to say that. That's like, they almost say it so casually, like, "Hey, you want to go get a soda?" It's like, no, like that's a that's a job in itself.
It's
Like, ugh.
what's interesting is people will comment so much about what they think you should do, and instead of being willing to listen to what you really want to do.
I'm laughing. It's funny that you say that because we just finished the work I do at the hospital is training on like patient outcomes and all of that, and we just created a constructive dialogue curriculum focusing on deep listening and curiosity, inquiry and curiosity, connection, all of that. And it
Mm-hmm.
was funny how, I'm trying to make sure I don't incriminate myself. It's funny how, regardless of who you're working with, it's almost this moment where it's like, oh, you mean to tell me if I actually listen, good things will happen? Like, yeah, whether you're talking to a friend or relationships, like this isn't a podcast about relationships, but if you're looking to get into a relationship, baby, strengthen your listening skills.
Yeah,
Like,
just a little bit.
and so just enough to get by. But so with kind of that story, I'm seeing kind of this thread of support and how that shows up. And so we can get eventually into the talk about recruiting and any tips and things like that that you're willing to share. But kind of uniquely at the Inspired House, we're really focused on helping professionals that are either experiencing burnout, are coming out of burnout, or may know someone who's dealing with burnout. And so I'm hearing a lot of things you went through that could definitely lead to someone kind of just quitting, kind of going into autopilot. And so I'm curious to know for you, how did you get through that? And how are you getting through the demands you have now?
So I've always walked. So I'm a spoken word artist and motivational speaker at heart, outside of recruiting, and so I've been like that since I was a teenager. And one of the things I always said was, "You don't fail until you quit." Like you don't like there is failure, yes, but until you stop trying, you haven't failed yet. And so I don't believe in this idea that I can't have something. Like nobody's ever gonna tell me no. Absolutely not. Like nobody's ever
Hmm.
gonna say I like this is not attainable to me, because so many things God has blessed me with, so many things that people would think like, how did like when getting into Microsoft, for example, somebody asked me one day, what's the secret sauce into getting into Microsoft? I have no idea. What did you do? I applied. Did you have a reference? Nope. What did you do? Me, my laptop, and Jesus. And so, like, literally, and they'd be like, Chenae, for real. I'm like, no, they're serious. Like, literally,
Hmm.
on a September night, Wednesday night, I'll never forget, I was tired from Duke. And I was just like, I have a lot of work. I am getting burnt out. I need a change. And while I loved my job, I loved my team, I loved my manager, loved my leadership, I just knew, I was like, I think my time is winding down. And so I just applied and I was like, all right, Jesus, I'm going to bed. And I went to bed. And so the next day I got an email from a recruiter. So I don't I don't walk with this idea that you're going to tell me that something is out of my reach. I don't believe that.
Hmm.
So if I want it and if it's meant for me, it's going to come to pass, because that's what God said.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
After Him,
And
everybody. So
and I love that because what I'm hearing from you is your values are clear. And I think for a lot, I don't think, I know for a lot of people, and you've probably seen it, where folk are in relationships or in jobs or in whatever that's just really not aligned with who they are.
mhm.
And they're sitting there kind of wondering, like, man, why does it feel like life is just being drained out of me? And it's like, you're not aligned. And so when you went ahead and you posted, you put in the application, you put it in Jesus' hands, and I feel you. I've been there, done that. That's how I ended up here. It's just like, all right, Jesus, it's you. I'm gonna call it a day. Was you were saying you were getting burnt out at your previous place, and thus led you to put the application? What were you experiencing? What were you kind of going through that made you realize, like, let me get the heck up out of here?
Yeah, I had a lot of requisitions by myself, but it was understood because of the size of our team and the need for the organization. So when I was at Duke, I recruited for Duke Primary Care, Duke Urgent Care, patient transport. So big Duke with patient transport, administrative directors. Before they branched off with private diagnostic clinics as a separate entity, we had private diagnostic clinics. I also had one of the DHAS. It was called DHAS. So that was the call center. And so
Okay.
those are the people who, if you need scheduling and all the things, you call in, and the call center technicians would point you in the right direction of where you needed to go. And so I had so many different departments that deep between DHOS and patient transport, those two departments, they dedicated one day for DHOS, one day for patient transport, because it was so much work and so much turnover. And so I held close to 300 requisitions by myself, which is unheard of for any recruiter. But I also had a working manager who helped me because she knew I had a whole bunch of work. I was the only
Hmm.
acquisition specialist, meaning the only entry level recruiter on the team. So a lot of the entry level positions came to me. And so what I had to learn quickly was I had to learn time to fill quickly. I had to speed up the process quickly so that I didn't just have work piling up on me. And because I was quick with it, what made me burn out was it was hard for me to get off the computer. Now because I'm in tech, now I know how to organize myself. I know how to manipulate my calendar a little bit to where I'm not burnt out. But when I was in healthcare, I just had so much transactional work, transactional recruiting that
Mm-hmm.
I just needed to. It got to a point where I was just like, okay, something got to give, and I didn't think I was making enough money with
Mm-hmm.
the work that I had. And I also realized, okay, now you're in a career that you love. Now is the next step where you kind of want to start thinking about buying a house and growing your
Mm-hmm.
family. And I had told the VP at the time that I couldn't buy a house on the salary that I was making.
Yeah.
And I'll be very clear, I can't. My husband and I want to buy a home. We can't buy a home on this salary. And so
Mm-hmm.
she was like, Chenae, I'm not mad at you. So I told her what Microsoft would be offer me. So, and I'll be transparent. At Duke, I left making like 57. Microsoft was offering me 95.
Yeah.
Right? It was
Yeah.
5 plus a sign-on bonus plus equity. So I went into big tech at 6 figures total comp, and then after my first 6 months, my salary increased to where my base salary hit 6 figures. So I got to a point where I was able to, now I can afford to buy a home and I can afford to pay off some debt so my credit score can be better and all the things. So it got to a point where life just started to want to grow me up and I needed to grow up.
Wow. So there are a couple things you said that I wanted to kind of dig deeper on. One of the words you used was it was very you were doing a lot of transactional recruiting. What does that mean?
A lot of busy recruiting. So a lot of fill this, fill this, fill this, fill this, apply, fill, apply, fill, apply. Like it was literally back to back, apply, fill, apply, fill. And now because I don't have as many requisitions, I can focus on the relationship building aspect of it. Where I was still able
Mm-hmm.
to build relationships, but it was so high of a turnover that I had to constantly fill roles. So it just felt like I was pushing paper. Although it was virtual, I just felt like I was pushing paper, trying to make sure I was filling the roles that were assigned to me. And,
Yeah.
and I don't ever despise that time though, because it taught me how to be quick. It taught me how to make mistakes and to bounce back from them. My manager at the time, Michelle, I'll shout out Michelle anytime. Michelle was dope as a manager. She was, and here's why I don't think I've ever said it this way, but I'm gonna say it. Michelle, if you ever see this, just know I love you. Michelle, being my first full time role, Michelle is a white woman. What I loved about it was Michelle there was never any bias. She let us be
Mm.
ourselves no matter what we look like, no matter how we spoke. She encouraged us to, however we recruit is how we recruit. As long as we're following the process, she was very open to, we family. Like, let's go ahead and do
Mhm.
our job, and this shouldn't be hard. And that is what I learned from a recruiting manager after Danita. I went from good manager to good manager. And so
Mm.
I got to a point where I just needed to grow up.
Hey, family, I hope you've been loving the conversation so far. Now, you already know at the Inspired House, we got your back. We're here to help you beat burnout. We're here to help you be your best self. Ultimately, we're just trying to help you feel good. But you know what goes a long way in somebody feeling good? It's looking good. And that's why we're really excited for the sponsor of today's episode, Purpose Grooming Lounge, right here in Rochester, New York. The Purpose Grooming Lounge is one of the best barbershops in the Rochester area. And if you're from Rochester, you know this place is no secret. And if you heard of the shop, then you already know about the owner, Jamil Gaines. Jamil is one of the best barbers in the city and who I personally trust to keep me clean and tight for every podcast, for every workshop, and for every video we put out on the Inspired House. But if you don't believe me, take his word for it.
Hey, this is Mills, Them People's Barber. If you're looking for a good haircut, good quality professional service, come on down to Purpose Grooming Lounge.
Hey, shout out to Mills and all the barbers at the Purpose Grooming Lounge. Check them out at 6 Atlas Street, Rochester, New York. And if you go in and decide to get a 90s high top fade like me, just tell them the Inspired House sent you. Back to the show. Wow. Okay. So you go from good manager to good manager. You're learning these lessons. And it sounds like even though you're dealing with burnout in a way, I think kind of uniquely, it sounds like you're dealing kind of with that workload, the resource kind of mismatch and that
Mhm.
friction that shows up there, which also not for nothing for our audience that's listening. I hope y'all are peeping this because you have to keep in mind that, and you can speak more to this if you don't mind, Chenae, is that recruiters are not robots. Recruiters are people too who are trying to figure out compensation so they can get a house for their family and all of that. And so it kind of leads me kind of to my next question of you're dealing with that, you're getting ready, you make the jump to Microsoft and you're doing all of that, but what is it like for you as a recruiter who wants to be relationship focused, who wants to be, and again, I can see it, that's why the lawyer, motivational speaker, TED Talk, people person through and through.
Mm-hmm.
How is that affecting you and your work, and how is that received, I would say, by not for clients but for candidates? Like how has that worked for you in terms of your relationship building?
It makes the job easier. So today I got on a call, and the first thing I said to my candidate, I honestly I didn't even think about how he would receive it. This is just who I am. So I was like, "You ever feel like I just got 3 more hours in my workday?" And he just looked at me. He was just like, "Yeah." And I was like, "I'm on the East Coast, and I got 2 hours and 59 minutes to go before 5 o'clock." Because I've been in so many meetings. He was like,
Mm,
"Well, I got a long way to go." I said, "Oh, you on the West Coast?" He was like, "Yeah." I said, "Oh, you do got a long way to go." And that's just kind of how I started the
mhm.
conversation. So it helps me relate to candidates because like I always go back to the human aspect. Outside of the professional, we are all people. Literally, we're all people who need a job, who want to make a lot of money, who want to be comfortable, who all got bills. I have this grocery store mentality, and the grocery store mentality is if I meet you in a grocery store, I don't know what you do for in your professional life. Because if I meet Desmond in a grocery store, then you're most likely going to introduce yourself as, "Hi, I'm Des," or Desmond, or "I'm
Mhm.
D," right? You're
Mhm.
going to say one of the three. And so, but you're not going to follow that up with, "I am, this is my name, and I am a technical recruiter at so and so, and I do this and I make this." Like, that's not who we are in our natural state of introduction.
Yeah.
And so I do my best not to force that canned response of introduction, because if I get to know you as a person, it helps me advocate for you when I'm helping you get your salary. So
Yeah.
in my mind, like I had a candidate, a candidate not too long ago who I made an offer to, who was probably one of my favorite offers I've ever made, because I got to share my fertility journey. And
Mm,
this candidate may also be in their fertility journey. And so I got to share being on this side. Although I'm not a full-time recruiter at my current role, I still get fertility benefits through the agency that I'm employed with. And so
oh,
I
that's
got a
great.
chance to tell a little bit about what it's like working here and being in a fertility journey and all the things. And so that level of relatability allows them to trust me, knowing that I'm probably going to get them the best salary possible, so that they could be comfortable in going through the non-cash benefits and taking advantage of those like they need to.
Wow. So because you're taking the time to build relationships, it's having a deep impact. You can negotiate and fight for people more. And that's all true. And I think it's funny how the things you're talking about are exact same things people are looking for in like good leaders, right? And good systems and teams and in good communities. And so it kind of makes me want to ask my next question. And I don't know if you can answer this or not, but if someone's in the recruiting process, what is a bad sign to look out for that they might be joining a team or a company that's just like, yo, the salary is whatever because of whatever? Like, what's a telltale sign that you would say as a recruiter to look out for candidates?
If a recruiter tell you, I'm one of those recruiters that'll tell you. I'm one of those recruiters that'll say, "I think you're overqualified for this role, but I understand you need a job, so I'm going to move you forward." But I let people make that decision. I think another red flag could possibly be if the recruiter just got a nasty attitude.
Mm,
If there is no point in being in a people facing role, customer facing role, candidate facing role, if you're gonna have a nasty attitude. There is literally no point. Go do something else. Like, go be in IT when you ain't got to talk to nobody. Because my husband, although he sits in on meetings, he still do the background work in IT. So go sit behind a computer where you don't have to talk to nobody because you got a nasty attitude. So I would say that. I will also say the communication. I am the recruiter who will over communicate the crap out of you because I need people to know where I am. I need people to know where they may be in the recruiting process. I may not have control over what's happening in the interview process, and so I have to tell you that. I have to tell you what if a position may be put on hold, or if you don't move forward in the role. I have to proactively let you know that this is what's going on behind the scenes, but these are certain things that I can't confirm yet. Blah 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 blah. So
Mhm.
I think it's going to be subjective to the person, but I think the number one thing I'll probably say is dealing with somebody with a nasty attitude. Because
Mm.
at that point, we are the I always say this is my motto, we are the liaison between the candidate and the company. We are the introduction to the candidate when it comes to the actual company and how it possibly will be. So if you got a nasty attitude, you must work in a company that just makes you have a nasty attitude. I don't work here.
That's really that's a really really good point. That whenever we're doing implicit bias training for the hospital, one of the things I try to tell them is that the place you're applying to is just as much in the interview process as you are for them.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's their kind of that good fit. As a recruiter, I don't know if you have like a lot of I don't know if it's like different for you necessarily as a recruiter, but it's kind of making me think of just my search committee hat right now. What are kind of like that the pros and cons, or better yet, for someone who doesn't know, for someone who like we have a couple college students that are part of the community, and they didn't even know what a recruiter was. They were thinking that like they applied to the job and they go through a search committee. So when I was explaining kind of what you did a little bit, they were kind of a little surprised. Where does a job posting or whatever, what decides what goes just traditional kind of committee and like recruiter, or are they just different parts on the same stop? What is that?
So I think your question is when you post a job, where does it go, and what job is the recruiter? Like, where do y'all all fall when it comes to
Yes.
in general? So when you post a role, we can choose where the posting goes. In general, when you post a role, it goes directly into the company's careers portal. So
Hmm.
we are using a back end, what we call applicant tracking system, or short ATS. When you apply into the role, your personal identifiable information, which is exactly what's inside of your resume, so your name, your email, your phone number, if you have your full address on your resume, all of that is considered personal identifiable information. Some people have their social security numbers on their resume for some reason. I don't know why. Please take it off. But if you have all of that personal or PII on your
Please,
resume,
I'm so sorry. Please forgive me for
yeah,
interrupting. People put what?
I think that's a cultural thing, though. I think it. I think
Um,
depending on what country you come from, some people may be a requirement. In the United States, it is not. So please take it off. But and even so, when they apply into our secure applicant tracking system, or when you apply to a software engineer or a sales role in a company, it comes right through the applicant tracking system. So then the question is, well, Chenae, what does the applicant tracking system do? What is that? It's a software that we use in recruiting or in HR in general to move you through the process. So when you go on your profile of the company that you apply to and you see you're in interview status, now you're in offer status, now you're in offer negotiation, now you're in hired status. We use the applicant tracking system to move you throughout the process, so then until you are fully hired into the position that you applied for. That is how we use the applicant tracking system. The applicant tracking system is also secure, which means people can't just break into the applicant tracking system and get your personal identifiable information. So we put offers inside of the applicant tracking system. That's how your offer letters are generated. The applicant tracking system is very important for us to do our jobs. If we don't have one, then it can cause issues from a legal standpoint, from an audit standpoint. So that's why most big companies have applicant tracking systems. Y'all see Bang, this is the
mhm.
time when he wants his attention.
Nay.
So that's the ATS. Then the question is, Well, where does the recruiter come in? We are when you apply, the first set of eyes that's on your resume most of the time is an HR person. That's either that some people, in depending on the company you work for, call their recruiters. They may call them talent acquisition professionals or talent acquisition consultants, talent acquisition specialists, talent acquisition analysts. Anytime you see talent acquisition or recruiter, those are the people who are looking directly at your resume to determine if you meet the minimum qualifications for the role that you apply to. Now, even if we don't work in the business or the skill set that you're applying into, for example, I recruited for engineers. I am not an engineer. We have what we call intake meetings with our hiring managers for them to tell us exactly what the day to day is above what the job description says. Tell us exactly what the day to day is. What's the skill set you're looking for? What types of companies do you want us to target? All the things. We find out all the skinny that you need to when we're trying to find ideal candidates. After that, once we have all that information and we match that with along with the job description and your skill set, we determine if you meet minimum qualifications. If the answer is no, you get a rejection email, so we hit a button. If the answer is yes, your status on your side is changed to recruiter screen or TA screen. And so that's how we use the applicant tracking system to move you throughout the process.
Okay. I did not. That makes more sense now. I knew there was a piece within the process of which I was not getting, but yeah, that makes a whole lot
Let
way
me let
more.
me add something. So in the applicant tracking system, inside of when we post a position, we can add what we call automatic disqualifiers. So when
Hmm.
people say, "How do I beat how do I beat the ATS?" The question is, do you meet the minimum qualifications? Because if you answer no to any of those automatic disqualifiers, you're essentially admitting that you don't meet those minimum qualifications. So the system takes you out for us. Then you have on the other side of that, you have some applicant tracking systems that set up to where the recruiter can see you, but the hiring manager can't until the recruiter moves you to a certain status. Now the hiring manager can see you. You're in what we call the hiring manager view. So,
Mm.
there are times like myself where I'm unsure. I'll send them over to the hiring manager anyway to get their opinion so that they can weigh in. And most of the time a no. So when people go, well, the recruiter don't know, actually, it's the hiring manager that told us no. So just FYI.
Oh, okay. So for so kind of now for our folk who are listening who kind of have that background of kind of what that process looks like, there are that applicant tracking system. There's kind of just no way you can just get around that. It's either you kind of have it or you don't. But and if there were things you were telling someone, whether they're out of college, whether they're ready to kind of make that shift, they're kind of having their Duke burnout experience, and it's like, yeah, it's time to make a move. What would be like your first couple bits of advice you would give them?
Well, I think it would be for them to understand what they want to do. Most people are ready to move on, but they don't know what they want to do. And I think I don't think I know, one of the most annoying questions that you could ask a recruiter is, what do you think I should do? I have no idea because you only know what you want to do. I can't tell you what you would want to do in your next step. I can give you suggestions based off of where you started, but overall, I can't, me or any other recruiter can't think for you. So I would want to know what you would want to do next, and then what work are you doing to get to your next? Because if you expect the recruiter to do the work for you, what dollar amount are you paying me for my time and my research to do it for you? So
Hmm.
I think it's that. I think it's understanding what you want to do and then building off of that so that way you can give the person who's trying to help you a little bit of a foundation.
I love that you're saying you're making it a point of you got to make sure you're doing the work yourself
Mhm.
because you're talking to folk where they're in a part where it's like, yo, the recruiter likes you, the recruiter's advocating for you. But you still got to do the work
You
though.
still
You
got to do it.
still got to research the company, still got to do all of that. Okay. So then with with the little bit of time that we got left, my kind of my last question is people who see your work, see what you're doing as the recruiting cousin, see kind of what you're also just side note, seeing the time you're taking to also be very encouraging. That's why I noted the whole motivational speaking piece, because following you on social media, there's just a lot of times where you're just kind of low key, just giving, not low key, just giving encouraging words and giving sermons, which is always a blessing to me. I just wanted to give you the floor. Is there any kind of last nuggets that you want to kind of give the audience? They range from college students, new professionals, executives, and I think maybe one or two recruiters themselves.
I'm gonna do a poem. So this is one of my favorite poems. It's called Mary. And it pretty much, what I'm saying in this poem is, all of us at some point, you don't have to be a woman, all of us at some point were one of these women in the Bible. And if you feel convicted, like I wasn't her or anything like that, you lying to yourself. Because at some point, all of us were whores, whether it's physically or emotionally or mentally, or we were all thrown away, or we were all doubtful, or we were all forgetful, or we were all something. And so I want people to know that it is okay to used to be something, because that's how you grow. It's okay to used to be a people pleaser, or you used to act this way, or you used to. It's okay to say, this is where I was and this is where I've grown from and I no longer am. So Mary is a journey of the different women of the Bible and bringing it all together from a God-centered lens. So it goes, I was born into a world of love, filled with possibilities and situations that was birthed from a new creation. Raised by an uncle, a cousin, a dad who knew the meaning of wisdom and repetition, because superstition to him did not equal precision. He raised me to be a woman with power and respect, and yet I always went for gold. He told me he was raising me to be gifted in our soul, so I watched his consistency, his ability to have faith in me, and I became a king's wife. This life that was given to me was not necessarily in my plans, but God told me early on that I didn't have to understand. You are the Esther of this generation with a heart of gold. Even though you may risk your life, stand up and be bold. Yes, I am Esther, the woman who put on her crown and listened, who followed wisdom rather than superstition, a woman who may feel forgotten, but who was willing to wait because I am a believer, who wants love and strength. I embrace your sister Leah, who knows that there is something better, even though I may feel overlooked and out of my youth. I am living proof that God would treat me like Ruth, obedient, sacred, heartfelt, and loved, who will push past the trend and stand out like the woman with the issue of blood. I am loved, the Sarah of this generation, doubtful at times, but birthing a new creation. I am Hagar, who was abandoned by people when I was willing to try. When they left me in the desert, God saw me and heard my cry. My whys turned into answers of yeses and amens, and men all of a sudden wanted to follow my trend. I am the new creation, battling the no's and you can'ts of this generation, a beautiful creation, made of metal and concrete, stable and able from my head to my feet. I retreat the things of Jezebel and Potiphar's wife. Stepping into my Anna, I am the Mary of this life. I am Mary, not worthy of his presence. Unlike people, he didn't treat me like a peasant, rather pleasant to me. I must agree. I was chosen to birth a king. Liberty placed me in a position of superstition and places so hollow, so easy for me to break down doors, break out of chains, because I had some Naomi's to follow. I was not left behind. I did not look back into my past life. I wanted more, better, opposite of Lot's wife. Faith like Mary Magdalene, never mind the chatter, because how I used to live, where I used to go, how I used to be, no longer matters. I am better than I ever was before. I tell you the truth. You want me to be what you say, but I exemplify Ruth. My youth is not in vain, nor is my boundary, because behind enemy lines is where God found me. That would be Mary. Everybody does that. I get that reaction all the time. I got one more.
Yo, family, what you got going on right now? What you doing? Nothing? I didn't think so. Look, you should stop over the house. Yes, I am cordially inviting you, but wait, not my house, not here. God, no. I'm talking about our online community, the Inspired House, family. Check it out. The Inspired House is a place where you can get coaching, be a part of co-working spaces virtually so you don't got to be grinding alone, sit in on our podcast and ask questions of the amazing guests that we're interviewing, and find community where there are other folk who are focused on bettering themselves, bettering their relationships, bettering their careers, and of course, bettering their money. So if you are someone who's looking to be tied in with community and you want to rock with us a little bit more, click the link in the description or check out the show notes and come be a part of the Inspired House community. Welcome home.
I intend to make people feel good. I also intend to convict you when you need to be convicted. Because in order for us to fully understand and embrace our next season and what we're supposed to do, we need to understand what's wrong with us. Right? We need to understand our own failures or our own faults or our own whatever it is that pretty much says I may be a little bit prideful and I don't really want to admit it. And so one day I was trying to go to sleep. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning. And you know when God is speaking to you and he wants you to do something and you won't do it, he won't let you go to sleep until you do it. So it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. And he was like, I need you to write this poem. And I'm like, oh, it's like 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm sleepy. He was like, write it or you're going to stay up. I was like, okay, fine. So it's called Use. And it goes, one day I asked God to use me. After allowing the devil to accuse me before I lose me, I asked God to use me. His response was, daughter, I will do just that. I will take your brokenness and put some cream on it for it to heal. But before I ask for restoration, you ask for restoration, I need you to be still. Learn how to heal in the midst of your pain. I take all the doubt in your mind and cast it down the drain. Heal, daughter. Turn your words so they can be positively spoken. Learn how to minister even though you feel broken. I wanted to be used, and he answered my call. Although he said he would never leave me nor forsake me, my presence needed to be present in the midst of it all. Are you willing is what he asked. Are you faithful? Are you sure? Because in order to be used, to be elevated, I need to know if you will endure or ignore. Because you can't minister or overcome if you're stubborn like kids. So how dare you ask for a blessing when you won't even acknowledge what the problem is? Are you faithful is what he asked. You want me to grow your ministry, but instead of looking for a blessing, I need to know if you will suffer for me. I wanted to be used, but hold up, Jesus, do it take all that? Daughter, you are mistaken, put your power intact. You cannot be elevated if you don't have faith in me. You can't be used like Esther with a Gomer mentality. Being used means to be utilized, to occupy, to resort to. So what makes you think I will present a promotion without testing you? I will probe you. I will job you to see where I stand. Be faithful over a few in order to make it to your Canaan land. If you're used, it's because you're separate and apart. If you feel sick to keep your faith in your heart, you want to be used, but let me just ask this. Can you stand solid? Because you can't have a mind like Judas with the heart of Isaac. When you were elevated, when you were raised, you will have naysayers because they will be mad that you were saved. They'll persecute you because you smile, toil with you to destroy, be upset with you because you have peace, and talk about you because you have joy. So do you want to be used? Are you really sure? Because then you'll choose whether to endure or ignore. You'll have your face to the floor, sending prayers up for sure. Being used means you may be tested or you may have to suffer, but know that you are worth fighting for. So do you want to be used? Do you really believe? Be ready to be elevated. Ask, and you shall receive. I want everybody to know that I have been stripped. Like there is no tomorrow. Before I got into big tech, my manager said to me, and from healthcare, my manager said, you haven't done anything until you put your job on the line for others. And I didn't understand what that meant until I was doing it in big tech and put my job on the line for others. And so when I do platforms and I do these and I do all the things, I was putting my job on the line while I was at big tech. They couldn't stand it because for some reason they couldn't figure out how I was doing this and not violating anything. And I would always tell them, if I stop doing this just because you asked me to stop doing this, when I get to judgment day and God asks me why, a sufficient answer is not because a person at my job told me I can't. So I had to, I understand what it's like to be stripped. I understand what it's like to have worked so much and you feel like you still have nothing. I understand what it feels like to wait. I know what it feels like to be over it. So there is nothing that anyone can tell me that's make me going to think otherwise, that God is not going to give you what he has for you. I was able to buy my first home with my husband on a contract. I was able to raise my credit score with a contract role. So please understand, I'm someone who sits in the seat of this market is a beast, but damn it, so are you. And so there is nothing that if God says it's mine, ain't nobody gonna tell me otherwise. So that's how you should walk. Just know that you are worth fighting for, and you just have to find the right atmosphere and the right people who also believe it.
Man, listen, y'all. That was a message. That was preachers. There are some preachers that preach sermons, and there are those who have a life message. And you just gave us a life message. And wow, on behalf of the Inspired House, thank you so much for that. I'm not even going to try to add on to that. How can people get in touch with you?
So Instagram. So I've been live this whole time. So Instagram, recruiter cousin, Chenae Erkerd. So first and last name. Last name is Erkerd, Erkerd. My mom has asked me to stop saying this, and I'm going to defy her own purpose. Her and my husband gave me a name that can't nobody say or spell. So I always spell it so people can find me easily. And on LinkedIn, if you can't find me by my name, just hashtag recruiter cousin and my post will pop up. If anybody else is using it, just know it's trademarks. So tell me so I can sue them and get some money. If you go on YouTube and or TikTok and Facebook, you can also just type in recruiter cousin and you'll get me. Or if you Google Chenae Erkerd recruiter cousin, you'll also get me. So yeah, I'm here, chilling, working.
That's a fact. For those who are seeing this on YouTube after the fact, we'll drop all the links to resources, connecting. Is the negotiate your salary shirt still for sale?
I have not restocked on these. I think I will eventually. They will be eventually, just not right now.
Okay. Well, then when they are on sale, we will update the description below. But family, thank y'all so much for rocking with us. Chenae, thank you so much as always for just being just so gracious with your time and
Of
just
course.
feeding my community. And we appreciate you. Family, have a great day. Please remember, we are better together. So
Yes, we are.
please stay connected, stay in community. I've been Desmond. Y'all have been awesome. Welcome home. We'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.